trumpets high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the cages loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along.
They come from you and not from us, and it is our duty to protect them. We thank you for our president, our vice president, all the cabinet members, the administration, upon whom there is great responsibility to do the things that are right. We know that you are the one who sets up governments and takes them down. And we recognize your sovereignty and submit to that. And we ask that you would grant us wisdom and compassion to be able to carry out your will, and that we can truly have one nation under God and recognize the godly principles of loving our neighbors, of caring about the downtrodden, about developing our talents so that we become useful to the people around us, of having values and principles that guide our lives. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Beth. That was very nice. Thank you. It's great to have everybody and have a little meeting. We're going to go over deregulation and some other things. If you'd like to stay, you're certainly entitled to. Today's cabinet meeting will focus on my administration's historic and unprecedented effort to remove job-killing regulations. They have been put on our country at a level over the last 15 and 20 years like nobody's ever seen before. More in the last 10 years than we had in every year put together. We have eliminated more regulations than any administration ever, even though it's substantially less than 2 years that we're here. We're lifting the crushing federal burdens on farmers, ranchers, factory workers, energy producers, and businesses of all types. Along with our massive tax cuts and powerful trade policies, which you're seeing every day, the deals we're making are unprecedented. Great deals. This regulatory rollback has helped to unleash an economic miracle. Jobless claims are at their lowest in more than 50 years. African American, Hispanic American, Asian American unemployment rates have all recently achieved their lowest levels ever recorded. And the economic pictures all throughout the country, literally, no matter what aspect of business, finance, economics you're talking about, we're setting records. I can't think of any category of business where we're not setting records, unless it's negative, in which case we're way, way far away from those records. The World Economic Forum just announced that the United States has reclaimed its place after a long absence as the world's most competitive economy and country. That's a great thing to have. We've also ended the war on American energy. We are now the largest producer of oil and natural gas in the world. And soon I'll be able to say, by far. We will be by far the largest. We are removing red tape so we can substantially lower the price of healthcare premiums and prescription drugs. We've come out with healthcare programs that are incredible, that people are just starting to learn about. We've gotten rid of the individual mandate in Obamacare, and we're running Obamacare, the remnants of it, better than ever before. The premiums are going up at a much smaller rate. It'll end up being over at some point. We had it done, but unfortunately somebody decided to vote against that at the last moment, even though they campaigned for years saying they were going to do it. But these are the facts of life. But it's of no import because it's happening anyway. But getting rid of the individual mandate was a very, very powerful thing. We oppose efforts from Democrats to destroy your health care and to raid your Medicare to pay for socialism, and that's what's happening. You'll end up with Venezuela. We totally support people with pre-existing conditions. We have a tremendous level of talent, and we're doing a lot of work on pre-existing conditions. The Democrats will never be able to pull that off. I will be asking every cabinet secretary to continue identifying and removing every needless, wasteful, and job-killing regulation that remains on the books. And while we've set a record, even though it's a short period of time, we've set a record, no president or administration has cut nearly as much. There are many, many left to do. And it will not hurt safety, it will not hurt health, it will not hurt anything. It will get things moving faster. We have tremendous potential. Our country has tremendous potential. And a lot of it was held up by exactly what we're talking about. To stop offshoring and outsourcing, we're also fixing America's horrendous trade deals. You know all about that, the deal with Canada, with Mexico, with South Korea. We're in a position where we're in very good shape with China. China wants to make a deal, and I'm just saying they're not ready yet. I told them, you're not ready to make a deal yet. And I don't blame China. I blame the people that were in charge of running our country for allowing that to happen. China was taking out $500 billion a year and more, and that should never have been allowed to happen. But likewise, other countries are at a much smaller level. Everybody does well against the piggy bank, and we're stopping there. We want fairness, and we're going to have fairness. So the USMCA has turned out to be a deal that's been incredible for our farmers, for our manufacturers, for everybody. It's going through the process now. It's been approved by Mexico, been approved by Canada. And likewise, the deal, as you know, in South Korea, that was a deal made by the previous administration. It was unacceptable. It was so bad. It was unacceptable. It was a tremendous drag on this country, and we've changed it, and now it's a very good deal for our country. So that's what we're here, and I think what we'll do is we'll start on the regulation aspect by asking Director Mulvaney to give you an update as to exactly what's going on. Where is Nick?
Thanks, Mr. President. I'm just going to give a real quick summary because I know we're going to hear from individual cabinet members. I want to give you sort of the top line where we are over the last 2 years. As I mentioned in the Oval Office meeting we had with the various industry and community leaders just a couple minutes ago, it's been a tremendous success. You remember when we first got here, you gave us some goals, which is that we wanted 2 old regs off the books for every new 1 reg that went on. Last year we did 22 to 1. This year we did 12 to 1. Don't let that mislead you. We actually did better this year. 176 regs off the books this year. That's dramatically more than last year. You also gave us a goal of no new regulatory burden. So if you're going to add $1 of burden over here, you had to go over and find $1 worth of savings over there. Last year, I think we did about $9.5–10 billion worth of savings. This year, 23. Where does that put us in comparison to where the Obama administration was in its last year? On the right-hand side, you'll see in the last year of the Obama administration, they saddled this economy with $216 billion worth of costs from new regulations, and that's just in the last year. Okay, we've reduced that burden by $33 billion in our first 2 years. So everything is pointed in the right direction. You're going to hear from a lot of folks here. You're not going to hear, I get a chance to hear from everybody, but HHS has done tremendous work on reducing paperwork. Commerce has done some really, really good work on fishing. The VA has done some work in technology that is saving veterans real money in terms of now they don't have to drive someplace, they can get some of their benefits through technology. Real savings for America's veterans. Labor, one of the big things I don't think gets nearly enough attention is this associated health plan works that labor has been doing this year. Across the board, Mr. President, it's probably one of the biggest successes we've had as an administration. Doesn't get the attention it deserves. That's probably understandable. It's just not as glamorous as things like taxes and energy. But getting rid of the small stuff over the course of time makes a big, big difference. I think it's one of the reasons you see, Larry's going to talk later on today about the economic prosperity. This is a big reason for it. So it's been a huge success.
That is a big factor. Thank you very much, Mick. Secretary Zinke, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You issued executive order on reducing regulation and controlling regulatory costs. The actions Department of Interior has taken, we've withdrawn since 2017 over 150 proposed rulemakings from our regulatory agenda. We've also finalized no less than 19 regulatory actions in 2018 to include eliminating the BLM hydraulic fracking rule, revising the 2016 BLM venting and flaring rule to allow beneficial use and collection. Also issued guidance on BLM compensatory mitigation, which in some cases was tantamount to extortion. The results have been that the deregulatory actions have resulted in a roughly about $2.5 billion in net present value savings, and those billions of dollars are without removing environmental safeties, but we have increased reliability, we've increased safety, and environmental stewardship. Your executive order on promoting energy independence and economic growth, actions the Department of Interior has taken. We've cut burdens on domestic energy. We've held 20 offshore leases so far in 2018, with more scheduled. The largest lease in the history of this country in the Gulf. We've reduced oil permitting times from over 4,500 oil and gas permits, bringing it down to 90 days or less. The results have been unprecedented. Our oil production has increased on federal lands, and then we support a total U.S. oil production at an all-time high. We are well over 11 million barrels and on our way to 14 million barrels a day. Recently, we had an onshore lease sale in New Mexico that generated the most revenue in the history under your administration, sir, and leadership. Nearly $1 billion in lease in less than 48 hours. We've also had the offshore energy safety record. This is being done as the record for being the most safe on offshore, because we believe in best technology, best science, best practices that increase safety, environmental stewardship, and reliability. In short, Mr. President, unleashing the potential of American energy in all its forms is estimated to be $20 trillion in unrealized wealth and 2.7 million new jobs. I'm proud to say, Mr. President, under your leadership, America will never be held hostage again by any foreign entity for our energy. Mr. President.
Very good, thank you very much. It's music to my ears. On transportation, thank you very much, Ryan.
Great.
I'd like to ask Elaine Chow, who's doing a terrific job. Secretary, please.
Well, the Department of Transportation is hard at work to reduce red tape and overly burdensome regulations that are duplicative, that don't contribute to safety, that inhibit economic growth and job creation, and also negatively impact the quality of life for all of us. So the department has exceeded the 2-to-1 mandate that you've just heard about for regulatory reform. In fiscal year 2018, the Department of Transportation withdrew 23 regulations that didn't make sense, that were nonsensical, that were overly burdensome, that were basically red tape. And we've added only one significant regulation that was needed, saving the taxpayers more than $1.2 billion in regulatory cost. Compare this with prior to this administration, out of the Department of Transportation alone, annually, the amount of regulatory cost enacted by the Department of Transportation in the previous administration was $3 billion annually. In the first year of this administration, the department achieved $1.2 billion in savings. And in this coming year, the department expects to achieve an additional $2 billion in regulatory cost savings. Now, all of this will be accomplished without compromising safety. And on the horizon, the department will address unrealistic and overly burdensome fuel economy standards to help make newer, safer cars more affordable for working Americans, expand the U.S. lead in commercial space, which the Vice President you have asked to take the leadership of, by streamlining procedures for commercial space launches. 6 years ago, America was third in commercial space launches. This year, America is number one, and we want to keep it that way. On the horizon, the department will also allow the safe operation of drones over the heads of people, out of the line of sight, and at night. And we are looking at pilot programs that will give us more information with which to allow this rather than individual case-by-case waivers for a drone population that is now 1.2 million as of August 12th of this year. We also want to streamline the permitting for the safe transport of LNGs, which is again vital to our country's energy independence, which Secretary Zinke talked about. So that is my report. Thank you.
That's great. And I think one thing very important, roadways and highways were taking forever to get approved.
Yes.
And we've cut them down many, many years. And ultimately, maybe we'll get down to one, but we are getting very close to two. And in some cases, you know, many stories where they're 21, 22 years, 18 years, 19 years to get just approvals. And in many cases, they don't get approved. After spending tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on the approval process, in many cases, they don't even get approved after so many years. So we're down to 2 years. We'll very soon be down to 2 years, and maybe we'll even do better than that. And they may not get approved, and that's okay too, but at least you're going to know if it's not going to happen. Secretary Perdue, Agriculture, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. As a businessman, you instinctively knew that the regulations that we had imposed upon our American economy had just deflated them and created a lack of hope and spirit. It just killed the American entrepreneurial spirit. And that's what you did. You talked about tax policy, this deregulatory environment, and the trade policy that you've done. And agriculture has benefited from that as well. Our American citizens own millions and millions of forest land out here with the U.S. Forest Service. We're making forest work again. Over the years, these communities have been depleted and decimated because we took away their jobs. We wouldn't let them cut their trees. And you've seen what happened. You've talked about the forest fires. Now we're permitting and cleaning up these forests so it will reduce the threat of forest fire as well as creating jobs in these communities.
And we have to do that in California, by the way.
Yes, sir.
California's a mess. We're giving billions and billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry. And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for to fix. And the destruction is incredible. So I think California ought to get their act together and clean up their forests and manage their forests because it's disgraceful. What's happening should never happen. I go all over the country and I meet with governors. The first thing they say is there's no reason for forest fires like that in California. So I say to the governor, or whoever's going to be the governor of California, better get your act together, because California, we're just not going to continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying because of fires that should never be to the extent. They were telling me in a couple of states, I won't even mention their name, it's like a flash. Some grass will burn. It'll be over in minutes. They'll lose 2 acres, 3 acres. At the most, they won't even lose that. And here we are with thousands of acres and billions of dollars every year. It's the same thing every year. And they don't want to clean up their forests because they have environmental problems in cleaning it up. It should be the opposite, because you're going to lose your forests. You're losing them. But it's costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars because of incompetence in California. So the people, I'm speaking now for the people of California, they don't want to see this happen. They're getting destroyed. And it's hurting our budgets. It's hurting our country. And they just better get their act together. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Director Mulvaney hit on a good point earlier. It's this myriad of these kind of things that give the public the optimism for this economy that keeps fueling that. I'll tell you a cute story that you will appreciate it. When you were elected, a childhood friend of mine was telling his granddaughter about the that and the USDA and what we did regarding school lunches. She said, good, I hope President Trump can make school lunches great again. And so, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're not feeding the trash can any longer,
That's right.
but we're trusting these professionals to
Big
make
difference.
nutritious meals for these kids out here that they want to eat.
I hear it's a big difference.
It is a huge difference. So, and then obviously another on nutrition, we're empowering able-bodied adults who can work without small children to remove these waivers that states are using to bypass the ability to work and provide for self-sufficiency for families in that regard, along with removing and creating entrepreneurial activities over new technology and agriculture. Thank you, sir.
Great job. Thank you very much. SBA, deregulation, a woman who's done a fantastic job, and I appreciate it. Linda, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to thank you for your leadership on the economy. You know, you have such a common sense approach to job creation. The bold approach you've taken toward modernizing the regulatory system. It's been a priority in this administration from day one, and I'm absolutely convinced the sustained focus on eliminating outdated job-stifling regulations has been a major contributor to the economic growth that we're experiencing. You know, the regulatory environment for small businesses especially, you know, according to a report from the Council of Economic Advisors, small businesses pay more on a regulatory compliance basis per employee than large businesses do. $11,700 per employee per year for small businesses. That's money they'll never get back to invest in hiring more, raising wages, investing in their companies. So as the chief advocate here, and I'm pleased to be that, for the 30 million U.S. small businesses, it's my job to listen to their concerns and to advocate on their behalf. You know, I can so appreciate all of the secretaries this morning who have talked about all of the deregulations that are happening in each of their departments, because I get to go out and visit with these small businesses all over the country. I've visited with hundreds of businesses over the last year and a half in 43 states, and I get to personally see that enthusiasm that businesses have and how appreciative they are with the job, with tax reform, regulatory reform. And so they're hiring. This morning I brought Chip Kovac from Youngstown, Ohio. And he has a family business. His father was supposed to come this morning but couldn't come for medical reasons. But 30 years ago he started his business by putting a lien on his home. So today he has a machine business that is benefiting from the deregulatory environment because he repairs rigs in the energy environment. So he can't hire enough people fast enough now for his business, you know, with the deregulation that's happened. So they are so grateful and appreciative. Last year the administration ended a rule pertaining to overtime pay that many of businesses opposed. You know, the overtime rule that had stayed in effect was affecting about 44% of small businesses. And now, rescinding that overtime rule, we have, for instance, a small hotel in Colorado Springs that said, had that rule stayed in place, I'd had to reduce work hours, fired people. Now, I've got more people on, we're running our business the way we should. I've got entrepreneurs in Texas who are opening franchises, and in Texas and Oklahoma, because the overtime rule is no longer there. So eliminating that kind of a rule has really spurred on our small businesses. So I am grateful that the SBA also, in accordance with your executive order, we've reviewed all of our rules, and we will seek approval of eliminating about 7% of the regulations that SBA has. Yeah. So I know that what we've done here at SBA has occurred many times across many agencies represented in the room. And Mr. President, I again want to thank you for presiding over an administration that is committed to listening to the men and women who run our small businesses, for giving them the opportunity to start and to grow and expand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Appreciate it. USMCA, it's new, it's good. It takes the place of NAFTA, which was a total disaster. Thousands of factories and plants closed. The farmers were never treated properly by NAFTA. The USMCA is a whole different ballgame. It opens up Canada, it opens up Mexico. for our farmers and for others. And I'd like to have Bob Lighthizer, who's really worked so hard, 24 hours around the clock for a long time, many months. Bob, maybe you could give it a little briefing, please.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. So after, as you say, after 14 months of tough negotiations and a lot of work, we now have an agreement that is much better than its predecessor, that's great for America, but also great for Canada and Mexico. I would thank you for your leadership, except leadership isn't appropriate in this case, since the president was on the phone every day and involved in every detail of the agreement. So he was like a senior partner. But I do want to thank the vice president, who was very much involved and was very helpful. Jared Kushner, of course, who I've spoken about in the past, and my tremendous team at USTR. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention how many cabinet members and cabinet offices were involved in this negotiation, because it really is, you think of agriculture and commerce, of course, and labor and treasury, but also transportation and energy and state and HHS. We had teams that had people from virtually every one of our cabinet offices who worked tirelessly over the course of this time. The first thing I should say is that this agreement needed to be renegotiated. NAFTA was not a good agreement. It started out bad in my judgment and grew worse over time. We saw huge trade deficits. It had no provisions at all for the modern economy. So it was a bad agreement that, in my judgment at least, was getting worse. Just as one point, I would suggest that if you look at just where auto plants were built in the last several years, of the last 11 auto plants made in North America, 8 of them were in Mexico, 3 were in the United States. And to give you a point of reference, almost all these cars ended up going to be sold in the United States. So we have redesigned the rules. It's not going to punish anybody. It's not going to make it worse for any other country, but it is going to make it better for American manufacturing. I would give this a point. Our agriculture also was in my judgment, not treated fairly. So I would say this is the first total renegotiation of a trade deal. It's by far the biggest trade deal that we've ever done. Just to hit on a few points, and then I want to make a couple of additional points with slides. It has more provisions to help manufacturing than any other agreement we've ever done. Better rules of origin that are going to force more manufacturing in North America. Better access for U.S. farmers right across the board. It got rid of this dairy provision that Secretary Perdue and the Vice President harangued me about for a year and some months. That's been cured. The most ambitious provisions on labor and the environment ever negotiated, and they're enforceable. I repeat that. These are the strongest labor and environment provisions ever negotiated. They're part of the agreement, and they're enforceable. The most advanced language ever on digital trade, intellectual property, really paving the way for America to take advantage of its innate ability to innovate. Better disciplines on non-market economies. Really, we've never had those in agreements before. We now have them for the first time. And the best provisions by far on currency and currency manipulation that we've ever had in a trade agreement. Now, there's many other chapters on good regulatory practices and standards, biotechnology, telecommunications, financial services, so it goes across the entire economy. And it's one other chart that I want to say, because we really view this really as a model of what a Trump trade policy looks like. And we really analytically divide it into sort of 3 pieces. One is the American first parts, which is auto rules of origin and dispute resolution, by the way, review and termination. So this is not a deal that's never going to be looked at again. We're not going to find ourselves in 24 years with a bad deal again. We're going to have labor provisions, great agriculture and dairy provisions, but then the 21st century, the new economy, digital trade, intellectual property rights, financial services, better provisions on investment. I mentioned environment, but also telecommunications. And then finally, a new and innovative approach, and that is combating non-market practices, practices that take advantage of the U.S. economy in ways that don't promote market efficiencies. And there's a whole variety of things in that area. I won't go through them all, but currency, stopping localization requirements in data, anti-corruption, and the like. the final chart, I guess, that I would show is just if you compare this agreement, and these are in your slides, if you compare this agreement on the key points to both NAFTA and TPP, this is far and away the best agreement. There's not a single provision of significance where this is not a plus up from TPP. And in some areas, like labor and rules of origin and several others, it's just in a completely different world. So this is a very important agreement. It's the kind of agreement that we want to have be Trump trade policy going forward. I think it's going to bring back jobs in manufacturing and help our farmers. It's going to help protect America's advantages in the years and decades ahead. It's had very good reviews. We've had a number of members of Congress, including 30 senators, 84 members who have made positive comments. 18 governors have singled it out. We have literally scores of comments from trade associations and labor unions and businesses and the like. So this has been very well received. I brought along a couple of versions of this. This is required reading for the members of the cabinet. Say what a good deal. And I actually have a tabbed version for you, Mr. President, because I know you have more things on your mind. The final thing I would say in another day, which would be big news, but isn't today because of all the things that we're doing, is that we sent the letter yesterday, as you know, to start the process under TPA to have new negotiations with the EU, Japan, and the UK. That's a process that we started. We did it last year at approximately this time for what was then NAFTA, and we started now on these three. We'll see where it turns out. We're hopeful. We certainly have a very ambitious pro-trade, fair trade, reciprocal trade agenda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Bob. And I have to say that these are countries in every instance which had no intention of ever negotiating with the United States. They were not going to. They were very happy with the deals the way they were. Speaking for Mexico, Canada, South Korea, every one of them. You go to the European Union, they had no intention of renegotiating. Now they're renegotiating. We'll see what happens with that one. They've treated us very harshly for many, many years. Taken out tremendous amounts of money, over 150 billion a year for many years. And I mean, frankly, it's ridiculous. It's hard to believe that we could have allowed ourselves to be put in that position. And that's why we have debt, and that's why we have tremendous deficits. And on trade, as an example, almost $800 billion a year has been lost for many years in our country. 800 billion is not even a conceivable number. So we're negotiating, and again, they wouldn't negotiate at the beginning. I said, that's okay, you don't have to negotiate. I said, why aren't you going to negotiate? Because we're very happy with our deal. We're extremely happy with our deal. I said, but I'm not happy with your deal. And I said, that's okay, we're going to put tariffs on every product you sell to the United States. And they said, we would like to negotiate immediately. And President Obama was unable to get anybody even to go to the table. And that goes for previous administrations also. It's incredible. And again, China, you could look at Vietnam, you could look at every country, just about every country. Incredible that we allowed this as a country.
All right, folks, welcome. My name is Jen. I'm from Golden State Times. As you guys see on the title, the president is set to debut a new policy on immigration in just a few minutes. We're getting footage from the White House. It'll take a little bit, but we would have it on your screen in just a few minutes, so please share the live stream on social media. The president is set to come out and speak soon. So as soon as we get the footage, the president will be coming out within the few minutes after we get the footage from inside the White House. Thank you so much for choosing us as your stream of choice. Other things in the news today. Heather Nauert, the spokesperson, the press secretary of the State Department, is number one on President Trump's pick for UN ambassador. I think that's a very good pick. She's very good at what she does, and I'm pretty sure she'll be a rock star at the UN. So stay tuned for that. She most definitely will be the candidate for the UN ambassador position. So stay tuned for that. Other things too. Later on today, President Trump will have a rally in Missouri. So make sure you guys stay tuned live here at Golden State Times. We're going to be streaming it. We're going to start our coverage at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, live here at Golden State Times from Columbia, Missouri, where President Trump is going to host a Make America Great Again rally. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Like I said, we'll be putting the footage from inside the White House on your screen in just a few minutes, and then President Trump will be coming out to deliver his speech on immigration. Thank you. Also, make sure to please share this live stream on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, any of those social medias will do. Thank you so much for your support. If you are part of the groups on Facebook or on Twitter or on Reddit, make sure you guys share it on there too. Whoever shares this live stream on Twitter will get a shout out from us as a thank you for your support. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on there, folks, even if you just have one or none. It doesn't matter. You guys share this live stream on Twitter or on Facebook, you'll come up on the search. So if someone is searching of a patriot, is looking for President Trump's speech, and he puts in Trump Live or President Trump's speech live or anything like that, your share of this live stream will show up. And then they click it, and then there's another patriot looking at the event live from beginning to end. So make sure you guys stay tuned and share this live stream. Thank you so much.
Country to happen, and it's not going to happen any longer, and that just shows the tremendous potential we have, because with these horrible trade deals, with these horrible military deals where we pay for everybody's military, or we certainly don't get subsidized or paid back what we should be, and that includes NATO, where we're paying for 90% of NATO to protect Europe, and I think it's all fine, but they have to pay. I got them to put up $44 billion last year. They're going to put up at least that amount this year, maybe more. They should pay for the whole thing right away. But we're paying for NATO. We are paying to protect Europe. And then on top of that, Europe treats us very badly on trade. So we lose on a double. It's a double whammy, I call it. So all of that's changing. It's changing rapidly. We're in a very strong negotiating position because we're the piggy bank that everybody wants to rob. And I don't blame China, and I don't blame Europe, and I don't blame anybody. I blame our politicians, and I blame our leaders for allowing this to happen. There was no reason for it. So we're making up for lost time, and we'll do it properly. I'd like to have Larry Kudlow speak and maybe talk about where we are with the economy, how good it's doing. It's been setting records despite all of the above. And Larry, I guess that's why I say the potential is so enormous, because you look at what happens to us on the military, the massive amounts of money. You look at, we have $716 billion budgets. Russia has a budget of $68 billion. China has a budget that's just a small fraction of what we spend. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's because we protect every country in the world practically. And some of these countries are massively wealthy, and they don't pay us for the protection. It's crazy. So, Larry, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So, I love to tell stories. I want to continue the story I told a month or so ago. The biggest story of 2018, in my judgment, is an economic boom, which is growing, where almost everybody said would be impossible to produce. And the boom is growing. Sir, this is the, pardon the phrase, Kudlow word, this is the growthiest economy in over 20 years, and will get growthier in the weeks and months ahead. Where's Sarah? Just want to get that down. Some new bullets, some new important bullets. Bullet, you mentioned this at your opening. U.S. is now the world's most competitive economy, #1. That comes from the Davos Group, the World Economic Forum, not necessarily our best friend. #1. U.S. hadn't been #1 in that survey since 2008, a long while ago. Bullet 2, more job openings than unemployed. Remarkable number. From the so-called JOLTS, 7.1 million job openings, a little over 6 million unemployed. The gap is 900,000. There's a lot more we can do. Success breeds success. Good business will bring these people back in. Higher wages will bring them back in. I don't think Ivanka's here, but her reskilling program will help bring people back in. That is so important in my judgment right now. Bullet 3, NFI small businesses and the Conference Board consumer sentiment continue strong, holding the high ground, historic lines. Confidence. The day after the election, the confidence started, and it's not stopped. Just go straight. Really, the day after the election, it's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. I've been covering this beat for a long time. Hasn't stopped yet. Bullet. Business equipment production. From the industrial production number yesterday, business equipment up 0.8% for the month, which is huge. 8.6% last 3 months. This is the capital spending, business investment side of the equation, which is so important, which will lead to more capital formation, more productivity, higher real wages, and of course higher unemployment. So business equipment strong. Bullet. Core retail sales that feed into GDP, 4.9% last 12 months. Big number. Bullet. Inflation hovering around 2% or even less last 3 months. Bullet. Atlanta Fed and St. Louis Fed both predicting 4% or better GDP growth in the third quarter. We'll get that number in about 10 days. We'd be thrilled with 3% plus. They're predicting 4. We had 4.2, as you know, in the second quarter, 3.2% in the first half of the year. They said it couldn't be done. It's happening. My story, I think the new Trump economy, this is my view, sir, blue-collar workers, small business, men and women owning and operating small business, as Linda has said, and of course energy production, extraordinary. We will be the world's dominant energy player, sir. We may already be, but we are gaining on it. We're passing the Saudis, we're about to pass the Russians. We've talked a lot about oil and natural gas and liquid natural gas and so forth. We are just about there, and we'll keep working on that. So, we're in an economic boom, right? The naysayers said you couldn't do better than 1-2%. We have done better. A lot of people have talked about the tax cuts. You lower marginal tax rates, you create new incentives. You've basically re-incentivized the economy. That's what you've done. You've given it life, openings, oxygen, everything. This is just so important. Deregulation, massively important, as everybody said. Started in 2017, continuing now. I think, Linda, that's a big thing for the small businesses. No red tape. They're not worried about that stuff anymore. And with lower tax rates, which also helps small business, you keep more of what you earn. Tax something less, you get more of it. And I think that's why people are going at it. I think it was you, when we had the economic summit a couple of weeks ago, was it you that asked owners to raise their hands? Somebody did. Anyway, 85% of the people in that audience own small business. And I'm just sitting there and the light bulb went off. This is the new Trump economy, along with the renaissance in blue-collar workers. And I want to echo Bob Lighthizer. I think the trade reform is contributing to this growth. I think the USMCA was pro-growth. Tremendous opportunities, market openings, farmers, manufacturing, financial services, protecting intellectual property, financial services. Anyway, it was a good deal. I agree. And it's going to be pro-growth. We're already seeing some of the benefits of this. Sir, I think you've basically ended the war on business. You've ended the war on success. And that's where this confidence and optimism is coming from. That's what I think you did. We are increasing, just hang with me for a minute. This is no one shot, what people are saying a sugar high. That's nonsense. This is not about pouring money into the economy the way our predecessors did unsuccessfully. This is an incentive model across the board which will increase the economy's potential to grow. That's what we're doing. And that's why we will be growthier than any year, I don't know, I'm saying the last 20 years. It could be greater than that. And I want to make a second point. If you increase the economy's potential to grow and you're putting out more goods and services, that can't be inflationary. In fact, it's counter-inflationary. And another related point, with a 3.7% unemployment rate, you know, more people working and prospering cannot be inflationary. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. Various econometric models and various institutions notwithstanding, they are wrong. More people working and prospering is a good thing. We haven't seen it in a while. Wind up just a couple more bullets to illustrate what I think are my points. We have seen the biggest rise in blue-collar employment, biggest rise in blue-collar employment since 1984, when I was still a Cub Scout working for President Reagan, going back to blue collars, sir, blue collars. Second, low-skilled and blue-collar workers are getting faster wage increases than the white collar at the top. This is something very new and different, okay? The middle and low end is outpacing the top end. I'm not against the top end. I love success. I'm just saying there's a catch-up going on in this country, which we have not seen in a very long time. Lowest paid Americans, 5% increase in weekly earnings in the second quarter. 5% increase. All workers, 1.7. In the retail sector, retail service sector, okay? 3.8% increase. Professional services, only 3%. And of course, the unemployment rate is 3.7%. So we are hitting all cylinders across the board. People are not getting left out this time around. Everybody's coming in. And we're going to see more of that as we employ. So tremendous optimism, tremendous confidence. Change in policies has a lot to do with it. You know, it has a confidence and an optimistic sense, and it has a real world practical sense. Paychecks are getting fatter, and folks know that. And businesses are springing up, brand new businesses, and folks know that. And people are they're not unwilling to take new risks. I believe your message is not only Warren, business over, I think you're telling folks to just take a rip at the ball, take a risk, and you stand behind them with your new policies, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's a total change from what we've had in the last 20 years, okay? Everybody thought it was impossible. It's possible. Tremendous turnaround. My old boss Reagan used to say, the best is yet to come. I would say to you, sir, the best is yet to come. It will get even growthier over time. Thank you.
Good job. Larry, have you done that before? I just asked Larry, has he done that before? I think so, Ben. What do you think? That was great. But he's never been this optimistic. I've watched Larry for many, many years. I hear that voice, that beautiful voice. I say, that's Larry. I can tell Larry in my sleep. And I've never seen him more positive than you've been in the last couple of months. And you've done a great job, but I appreciate you doing that.
I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate it. Then I think Larry's going to be very happy with what I'm going to say. I might as well leave the press to say it, because it'll put more pressure on all of the people gathered around our table. I'm going to ask each of you to come back with a 5% budget cut from your various departments, whether it's a secretary, an administrator, whatever. I'm going to ask everybody to come back with a 5% cut for our next meeting. I think you'll all be able to do it. There may be a special exemption, perhaps. I don't know who that exemption would be. If you can do more than 5, some of you will say, hey, I can do much more than 5. You know, I've heard about the penny plan for 15 years. 1 penny every year per dollar. 1 penny every year. After 4 or 5 years, the country's in good shape. I'm saying, let's not do the penny plan. Let's do the 5 penny plan. I think you can do it. So I'd like to have everyone sitting around the table, your incredible domains that you preside over so brilliantly in some cases very well, some cases brilliantly. I would like you to come back with a 5% cut. Get rid of the fat, get rid of the waste, and I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure everybody at this table can do it. It'll have a huge impact. Last budget, we had to go because of the military. We had to fix our military. Our military is in the process of being fixed. Planes are being made, boats are being made, ships are being made, missiles, rockets, everything. Our nuclear is being.
All right, folks. So we have footage. Hold on. Give me a second while I pause this. All right, folks. So we have footage from inside the White House. We're going to be putting it up on your screen in just a second. So please share the live stream on social media if you haven't yet. If you already shared it, thank you so much. I'll give you guys a quick shout out before the president comes out and delivers his speech. I'm going to be putting the live footage on your screen. Again, this is about immigration. It has to do with the caravan. It has to do with people trying to cross illegally into the United States. So this is very important, folks. Very important regarding immigration. So give me a second as I put it up on your screen. It takes a little bit of extra steps here. So there it is, folks. This is live footage from inside the White House as the president is set to come out soon and deliver his speech regarding immigration. Thank you so much. Again, if you just joined us this very second or just a few minutes ago, please share the live stream on social media. If you guys share it on Twitter, I'll give you guys a quick shout out before the president comes out. Thank you so much. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up button below the video. The thumbs up button, being active on the chat, and sharing the live stream forces YouTube to recommend this so more Patriots are able to see it. So if you guys would like to help out Golden State Times, share the live stream, click the thumbs up button below the video, and be active on the chat and have fun. Thank you so much to the moderators also for coming out and try to keep the chat clean and enjoyable for everyone. All right, folks, I'd like to give a shout out to A Grain of Salt 2. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Let's see here. Let's see, who else do we have? Garopi Studios, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Also, Jimmy, thank you so much, Jimmy, for sharing the live stream on social media. Let's see here. Thank you so much to KS Sandhill Plum. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Also, Cindy. Thank you so much, Cindy. I am Grandma Carol. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Mike Hopkins. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Rose Bar. Thank you so much. Nationalist Troy. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Follow the White Rabbit. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Also, Cat Eyes. Thank you so much, Cat Eyes. And we also have Elated Veracity. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Thank you also to Don Day. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. JD Clark. Thank you so much. Denise Steele. Thank you so much. We also have Deplorable Nationalist. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. We have Tiana, ex-Tiana. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. We also have Catherine. Catherine, thank you so much. Dennis, thank you so much. And Jonathan, Sharon, and Nanette, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Let's see. We have OD. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We have Jenny and Rainbow Promise. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream, like always. Thank you to Eric the Patriot. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Let's see here. We have Concerned Citizen. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. And S. Gibson. America First, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Calendula for Trump, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Gammy of Q Army, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. If I said that wrong, I apologize. Like always, I apologize. I always butcher some of these, and I apologize so much. Why not? Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. And Mike, thank you so much, Mike, for sharing the live stream. Like always. John, thank you so much, John. And also, let's see. Thank you so much, John. And I think that's it for right now. Sorotic, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. All right, folks. So if you guys share the live stream on social media, then I'll give you guys a quick shout out right before the president arrives. Once the president gets here, then I can't, go on microphone. But I will give you guys a quick shout out if you share the live stream on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, any of those social media sites. And I thank you so much in advance.
It goes better up here. Swear to God. Yep. It did. My own statue over a TV camera. Okay, sorry. Karen, sorry. Sorry. But it helped. I got a test back. No, because then I'll forget it. But is there a place to put it where you won't get? I don't want it to fall. Okay. Sure. I mean, when I was holding it up there, I got a better signal. I don't know why. It could have just been coincidence. Will we give it 2 minutes? I didn't even take it today. I haven't made anything last night.
All right, folks. So if you guys haven't heard yet, Heather Neuer is the front runner to become the UN ambassador for the United States. Press 1 on the chat if you guys think that she would do a good job as the UN ambassador. You guys might have heard Nikki Haley is leaving by the end of the year. So do you guys think that Heather Neuer, which is the press secretary of the State Department right now, do you think she's going to do a good job as the new UN ambassador? Press 1.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. And good afternoon. I'd like to provide an update to the American people regarding the crisis on our southern border, and crisis it is. Illegal immigration affects the lives of all Americans. Illegal immigration hurts American workers, burdens American taxpayers, and undermines public safety and places enormous strain on our local schools, hospitals, and communities in general, taking precious resources away from the poorest Americans who need them most. Illegal immigration costs our country billions and billions of dollars each year. America is a welcoming country, and under my leadership, it's a welcoming country. We lead the world in humanitarian protection and assistance by far. It's nobody even close. We have the largest and most expansive immigration programs anywhere on the planet. We've issued 40 million green cards since 1970, which means the permanent residency and a path to citizenship for many, many people. But we will not allow our generosity to be abused by those who would break our laws, defy our rules, violate our borders, break into our country illegally. We won't allow it. Mass, uncontrolled immigration is especially unfair to the many wonderful, law-abiding immigrants already living here who followed the rules and waited their turn. Some have been waiting for many years. Some have been waiting for a long time. They've done everything perfectly. And they're going to come in. At some point, they're going to come in. Many cases, very soon. We need them to come in because we have companies coming into our country. They need workers, but they have to come in on a merit basis, and they will come in on a merit basis. The communities are often left to bear the cost and the influx of people that come in illegally. We can't allow that. There's a limit to how many people a nation can responsibly absorb into their societies. Every day, above and beyond our existing lawful admission programs, roughly 1,500 to 2,000 people try crossing our borders illegally. We do a very good job considering the laws are so bad. They're not archaic, they're incompetent. It's not that they're old, they're just bad. And we can't get any Democrat votes to change them. It's only the Republicans that are in unison. They want to change them. They want to make strong borders, want to get rid of any crime because of the borders, of which there's a lot. And we've done a great job with the laws that we have. We're moving in tremendous numbers of people to get out the MS-13 gangs and other gangs that illegally come into our country. And we're getting them out by the thousands. But this is a perilous situation, and it threatens to become even more hazardous as our economy gets better and better. A lot of the cause of this problem is the fact that we right now have the hottest economy anywhere in the world. It's doing better than any economy in the world. Jobs, unemployment, you look at any number. Right now we have more workers than any time in the history of our country. We have more people working, which is a tremendous statement. More people working than at any time in the history of our country. And people want to come in, and in some cases they want to take advantage of that. And that's okay, and we want them to come in, but they have to come in through merit. They have to come in legally. At this very moment, large, well-organized caravans of migrants are marching toward our southern border. Some people call it an invasion. It's like an invasion. They have violently overrun the Mexican border. You saw that 2 days ago. These are tough people in many cases. A lot of young men, strong men, and a lot of men that maybe we don't want in our country. But again, we'll find that out through the legal process. But they've overrun the Mexican police, and they've overrun and hurt badly Mexican soldiers. So this isn't an innocent group of people. There's a large number of people that are tough. They've injured, they've attacked, and the Mexican police and military has actually suffered. And I appreciate what Mexico is trying to do. So let me begin by stating that these illegal caravans will not be allowed into the United States, and they should turn back now because they're wasting their time. They should apply to come into our country. We want them to come into our country very much. We need people to help us with all of these companies that are coming in. We've never had anything like this. We have car companies coming in. We have Foxconn, so involved with the manufacturing of Apple products, coming in Wisconsin. We have a lot of companies coming in, but they have to apply, and they have to be wonderful people that are going to love our country and work hard. And we've already dispatched for the border the United States military, and they will do the job. They're setting up right now, and they're preparing. We hope nothing happens, but if it does, we are totally prepared. Greatest military anywhere in the world, and it's going to be and is now in great shape, no longer depleted like it was when I took over as the President of the United States. The government of Mexico has generously offered asylum, jobs, education, and medical care for people within the caravan, but many members of the caravan have refused these offers, which demonstrate that these migrants are not legitimate asylum seekers. They're not looking for protection, because if they were, they'd be able to get it from Mexico. Mexico has agreed to take them in and encourage them to stay. But they don't want to stay. They want to come into the United States. So this is no longer safety, and asylum is about safety. Asylum is not a program for those living in poverty. There are billions of people in the world living at the poverty level. The United States cannot possibly absorb them all. Asylum is a very special protection intended only for those fleeing government persecution based on race, religion, and other protected status. These caravans and illegal migrants are drawn to our country by Democrat-backed laws and left-wing judicial rulings. We're getting rulings that are so ridiculous, so bad, they're writing the laws. Can't do that. Collectively known as an example, catch and release. It's a disgrace that we have to put up with it. These policies lead to the release of illegal aliens into our communities after they've been apprehended. But we're not releasing anymore. Big change as of a couple of days ago. We're going to no longer release. We're going to catch. We're not going to release. They're going to stay with us until the deportation hearing or the asylum hearing takes place. So we're not releasing them into the community. We have millions of people that over the years have been released into the community. They never show up for the trials. They never come back. They're never seen again. And those people, they know who they are. And we know a lot of where they are, who they are. And those people will be deported, directly deported. The biggest loophole drawing illegal aliens to our borders is the use of fraudulent or meritless asylum claims to gain entry into our great country. An alien simply crosses the border illegally, finds a border patrol agent, and using well-coached language by lawyers and others that stand there and trying to get fees or whatever they can get, they're given a phrase to read. They never heard of the phrase before. They don't believe in the phrase. but they're given a little legal statement to read. And they read it. And now all of a sudden they're supposed to qualify. But that's not the reason they're here. This merely asserts the need for asylum, and then often released into the United States, and they await a lengthy court process. The court process will take years sometimes for them to attend. Well, we're not releasing them into our country any longer. They'll wait for long periods of time. We're putting up massive cities of tents. The military is helping us incredibly well. I want to thank the Army Corps of Engineers. They've been so efficient, so good, so talented. We have thousands of tents. We have a lot of tents. We have a lot of everything. We're going to hold them right there. We're not letting them into our country, and then they never show up. Almost. It's like a level of 3%. They never show up for the trial. So by the time their trial comes, they're gone. Nobody knows where they are. But we know where a lot of them are, and they're going to be deported. There are now nearly 700,000 aliens inside the United States awaiting adjudication of their claims. Most of these people, we have no idea how they got there, why they got there, and the number is actually going to be a much larger number as we look at all of the data. So if you look at just at a minimal number, it's the size of Vermont or bigger. And the overall number could be 10 million people, could be 12 million people, could be 20 million people. The record keeping from past administrations has not exactly been very good. As human smugglers and traffickers have learned how the game is played and how to game the system, we have witnessed a staggering 1,700 increase in asylum claims since the year 2010. They understand the law better than the lawyers understand the law. You have a lot of professionalism there. You have a lot of professionalism involved with setting up the caravans. You take a look at the way that's happening. Even the countries, you look at Honduras and El Salvador, and you look at what's happening at the different levels in different countries, or what's happening on the streets. There's a lot of professionalism taking place, and there seems to be a lot of money passing. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, these big caravans are formed, and they start marching up. Got a long way to go. On average, once released, an asylum case takes 3.5 years to complete. Think of it. Somebody walks into our country, reads a statement given by a lawyer, and we have a 3.5 year court case for one person. Whereas other people tell them, out, get out, just get out. Other countries, get out. We have a border, get out. We go through years and years of litigation because of the Democrats and the incompetent, very, very stupid laws that we have. They're the laughing stock all over the world, including the people that are marching up. They understand. But the difference is we're not allowing them in, and we're not releasing, and we're not doing any of the things that were done for so many years that really are terrible for our country. The overwhelming majority of claims are rejected by the courts, but by that time, the alien has usually long since disappeared into our country. So they never get to see the judge, they never get to have a ruling. They don't care because they're in the country and nobody knows where they are. All told, there are approximately 1 million aliens who have received final orders of removal. They've actually got final orders of removal. You don't have to go to a court anymore. The courts have already issued the orders of removal, and we've gotten a lot of them, but who remain at large in our country. So we're moving them out. This endemic abuse of the asylum system makes a mockery of our immigration system, displacing legitimate asylum seekers, and there are legitimate asylum seekers, while rewarding those who abuse or defraud our system, which is almost everybody. Everybody is abusing it and just doing things to our system which were unthinkable, I'm sure, even by the Democrats who were largely responsible for getting it done. These individuals disrespect the foundations of American government by voluntarily choosing to break the law as their first act on American soil. Furthermore, contained within this giant flow of illegal migration to our southwest border is the movement of illicit and deadly narcotics. It's in the southwest. Most of it comes in. Nearly 100% of heroin in the United States enters through the southern border. Think of that, 100% almost of heroin comes in through the southern border, along with roughly 90% of cocaine and the majority of meth and a substantial portion of the ultra-lethal fentanyl killing our youth. The fentanyl is killing our youth. These drugs destroy the lives and kill much more than 70,000 Americans every single year. And the number goes up and up and up because we are so foolish with our laws that we allow this to happen. A death toll equivalent of the size of an entire American city every year. The current influx, if not halted, threatens to overwhelm our immigration system and our communities and poses unacceptable dangers to the entire nation. Have to have our borders. Can't let drugs come in. It's not just people. It's people, it's drugs, it's human traffickers. Human trafficking is now at the highest level in the world that it's ever been. That's because of the internet. Think of it, human trafficking. You think back 200 years, 500 years, human trafficking, where they steal children, in many cases women, unfortunately. They steal women. They're human traffickers, the lowest scum on earth, the lowest scum on earth. And it's at a level that it's never been worldwide, never been at a level like this. If these caravans are allowed into our country, only bigger and more emboldened caravans will follow. And you see that's what's happening now. We have one that's coming up, and it's being somewhat dissipated as they march, but then other people are joining it. And then it gets bigger. And now, if you look back at Honduras and if you look at El Salvador, other ones are solving, and they're forming. They're forming. You have new ones that are forming. And we call it caravan number 2 is unbelievably rough, people. Very, very hard for the military to stop it. Our military will have no problem. But very, very hard. Mexico's having a very, very hard time with it. Once they arrive, the Democrat Party's vision is to offer them free health care, free welfare, free education, and even the right to vote. You and the hardworking taxpayers of our country will be asked to pick up the entire tab. That's what's happening. Medical, and in many cases, they've got some big medical problems before they get here. No nation can allow itself to be overwhelmed by uncontrolled masses of people rushing their border. That's what's happening. They are rushing our border. They're coming up. And even before you get to the caravan, just on a daily basis, people coming in. And it's a very bad thing for our country. It's sad in many ways, but it's a very bad thing for a country. And again, costs us billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. And I will therefore take every lawful action at my disposal to address this crisis. And that's what we're doing. The United States military, great people. My administration is finalizing a plan to end the rampant abuse of our asylum system. It's abused, to halt the dangerous influx and to establish control over America's sovereign borders. Got borders. And once that control is set and standardized and made very strong, including the building of the wall, which we've already started, $1.6 billion spent last year, $1.6 billion this year. We have another 1.6 that will be coming, but we want to build it at one time. All it does is turn people in a different direction if you don't. We want to build it at one time. Under this plan, the illegal aliens will no longer get a free pass into our country by lodging meritless claims in seeking asylum. Instead, migrants seeking asylum will have to present themselves lawfully at a port of entry. So they're going to have to lawfully present themselves at a port of entry. Those who choose to break our laws and enter illegally will no longer be able to use meritless claims to gain automatic admission into our country. We will hold them for a long time if necessary. The only long-term solution to the crisis and the only way to ensure the endurance of our nation as a sovereign country is for Congress to overcome open borders obstruction. That's exactly what it is. It's open borders obstruction. No votes. You can come up with the greatest border plan, the greatest immigration plan. You won't get one vote from a Democrat. They have terrible policy. In many cases, they're terrible politicians. But the one thing I give them great credit for, they vote as a bloc. They stick together. And we will end catch and release. We're not releasing any longer. We also must finish the job that we started by being strong at the border. When we're strong at the border, people will turn away and they won't bother. You will see in a year from now, or in certainly a period of time from now, despite our very good economy, which some of them come for that, I can't blame them for that. You have to do it legally. But you will see that the numbers of people trying to get in will be greatly reduced. But that can only happen if we're strong at the border. And the southern border is a big problem. And it's a tremendous problem for drugs pouring in and destroying our youth and really destroying the fabric of our country. There's never been a drug problem like we have today. And as I said, much of it comes from the southern border. So in the meantime, I will fulfill my sacred obligation to protect our country and defend the United States of America. And this is a defense of our country. We have no choice. We have no choice. We will defend our borders. We will defend our country. Thank you very much.
What happens to the children then? If you're ending catch and release, what happens to those children? Do they stay released?
We're working on a system where they stay together, but I will say that by doing that, tremendous numbers, and under the Obama plan, you could separate children. They never did anything about that. Nobody talks about that. But under President Obama, they separated children from the parents. We actually put it so that that didn't happen. But what happens when you do that is you get tremendous numbers of people coming. It's almost like an incentive to, when they hear they're not going to be separated, they come many, many times over. But President Obama separated the children from the parents, and nobody complained. When we continued the exact same law, this country went crazy. So we are going to continue and try to continue what we're doing. But it is a tremendous incentive for people to try. But it's going to be very, very hard for people to come into our country. So we think we'll be able to do that.
How do you plan to them firing upon any of these people? Could you see?
I hope not. I hope not. It's the military. I hope there won't be that. But I will tell you this, anybody throwing stones, rocks, like they did to Mexico and the Mexican military, Mexican police, where they badly hurt police and soldiers of Mexico, we will consider that a firearm. Because there's not much difference. When you get hit in the face with a rock, which, as you know, it was very violent a few days ago, very, very violent. That break-in, it was a break-in of a country. They broke into Mexico. And you look at what's happening in Guatemala, just to mention Guatemala, along with El Salvador and Honduras. It's disgraceful that those countries aren't able to stop this, because they should be able to stop it before it starts. And the United States pays them a fortune. And we're looking at not doing that anymore, because why should we be doing that when they do nothing for us? Jeff, go ahead.
Mr. President, how is this plan going to be legal, considering current law?
Oh, this is totally legal. No, this is legal. We're stopping people at the border. This is an invasion, and nobody's even questioning that.
But in terms of your plans to change asylum, are you going to leave us the executive?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to release. You can hold. The problem is, to hold people, you need massive facilities. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Another country says, sorry, you can't come in. With us, we take their name, take their phone number, take their everything, and say, good luck. Only because we don't have the facilities to hold people. But we're building the facilities now. We're building massive numbers of tents, and we will hold them in tents. And you don't have to release them. They released them only because they didn't have the facilities to hold them.
Is there like an executive order that you're going to be releasing today?
We will be doing an executive order sometime next week, yes.
Executive order dealing with ending catch and release and asylum?
It's going to end. It's going to be talking about everything. It'll be quite comprehensive. Many of the things we've talked about today.
Mr.
Yes.
President, so you're, so just to clarify, you are speaking of in the tents, these family units that would.
Well, we have other facilities also. But what's happened is we are holding so many facilities, so many people, that our facilities are being overrun. They're being overrun. And we are putting up temporary facilities. Eventually, people won't be coming here anymore when they realize they can't get through.
So they will hold the children in those tents with
We
their
will be
parents?
holding the family and the children together. Remember this, President Obama separated children from families. And all I did was take the same law, and then I softened the law. But by softening the law, many people come up that would not have come up if there was separation.
What do you say to the critics who, Mr. President, what do you say to the critics who think this is a political thing before the midterm?
There's nothing political about a caravan of thousands of people, and now others forming, pouring up into our country. We have no idea who they are. All we know is they're pretty tough people when they can blast through the Mexican military and Mexican police. They're pretty tough people. Even Mexico said, wow, these are tough people. I don't want them in our country. And women don't want them in our country. Women want security. Men don't want them in our country, but the women do not want them. Women want security. You look at what the women are looking for. They want to have security. They don't want to have these people in our country. And they're not going to be in our country. It's a very big thing, yes.
Mr. President, when you talk about finalizing a plan to end asylum, is this a plan that will be included in that executive
No, people
order?
are going to have a chance to go for asylum. But if you look at the records, not very many people are allowed to stay once they go to court. But what happens is they were using asylum. First of all, they were told what to say by lawyers and others. Read this statement. You read the statement, and now you're seeking asylum. The whole thing is ridiculous. And we won't put up with it any longer.
U.S. law and international law says that people who have valid claims have a right to seek asylum.
That's
So
right.
what would be?
Well, they're going to go to court. They're going to go to court, as crazy as it sounds. They're going to go, excuse me, ready? They're going to go to court, and a judge is going to determine. But usually when they go to court, they're deported. It just seems that most of the people are deported once they go. The problem is they never end up going to court because when they come in, they're told to come back in a year for a court case, and they disappear into the United States, never to be seen again. But we're going to be, and they're given deportation notices. We will be deporting those people.
Saying rock throwing like happened in Mexico would be considered.
We will consider that the maximum that we can consider that because they're throwing rocks viciously and violently. You saw that 3 days ago, really hurting the military. We're not going to put up with that. They want to throw rocks at our military fights back. We're going to consider it, and I told them, consider it a rifle. When they throw rocks like they did at the Mexico military and police, I say, consider it a rifle. Jeff?
Yeah, separate topic, sir. Did you offer Heather Mallon the job as a running
No, she's under very serious consideration. She's excellent. She's been with us a long time. She's been a supporter for a long time, and she's really excellent. So she's under very serious. We'll probably make a decision next week. We have a lot of people that want the job, and there are a lot of really great people, but we'll be talking about that next week sometime.
Did you see Oprah Winfrey's comments today?
I didn't. What did she say?
She was campaigning in Georgia at the same time that Vice President Pence was.
At the same time as
Excuse me, at the same time Vice President Pence was encouraging people to vote and
Well, that's okay. I mean, look, I was on Oprah's last week of her show. Oprah liked me very much. I've always liked Oprah. You know, Oprah's good, but the woman that she's supporting is not qualified to be the governor of Georgia by any stretch of the imagination. And I'll be in Georgia the next few days, and we have a tremendous, around Macon, we have a tremendous crowd already. Nobody has a crowd like we have because people want to see a great governor of Georgia. And I think Brian's going to be a great governor of Georgia. I think he'll be a fantastic governor. He's totally qualified. She is not qualified to be the governor of Georgia. She's not qualified. And Georgia's a great state. It's a great, great state. Take a look. Take a look at her past. Take a look at her history. Take a look at what she wants to do and what she has in mind for the state. That state will be in big, big trouble very quickly. And the people of Georgia don't want that. Question?
We just received an update on an election integrity. Can you say for a fact that our elections are
Yeah. I just met with the FBI, with Chris, and the Justice Department, and with Secretary Nielsen, and they've spent a lot of time and effort and some money on making sure that everything with respect to the election coming up in 5 days is going to be perfect and safe. There will be hopefully no meddling, no tampering, no nothing. And we spent a lot. Now, President Obama had the chance to do that in September before 16, but he chose not to do that because he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. And while everybody agrees it didn't affect the vote at all, nevertheless, he could have done things that probably would have made it a little more obvious, a little clearer. But he was told by the FBI in September, before the election in 16, about potential meddling or potential Russian meddling, and he did nothing about it. He didn't do that because he thought that Hillary Clinton would win. All right, one
On
minute.
immigration, Mr. President, are you optimistic that you can still get the continuing resolution through December 7th for Homeland Security Monday? Even if the Democrats take the House?
I think we're going to do very well in the election. I must tell you, if you look at the races, if you look at the Senate, which is very important, obviously. I'm leaving today. I'll be in Missouri, and I'll be touching down at a number of places over the next 5 days. But I think we're doing very well in the Senate, and I think we're doing very well in the House. The only problem is with the House, there's so many people. I'd like to stop for every one of them, but there's so many people. But I think we're doing very well in the House. I think people want to see strong borders. I think they want to see security. They want to see good health care. They want to see the things that we're providing. They don't want to have their taxes increased. We're decreasing their taxes. We just announced yesterday, you probably heard, Kevin Brady put it out, a reduction of tax. We're going for a reduction of middle income tax of 10%. The Democrats want to, double up your taxes. In some cases, you have to pay 3 times what you're paying right now in order to get bad health care. And so what we're doing is something that I think the people want, and I think we're going to do very well in the election, even though history says that whoever the president may be, it trends the other way. It certainly does seem that way, but nobody's ever been president that has the greatest economy in the history of our country. This is the greatest economy in the history of our country. These are the greatest unemployment and employment numbers in the history of our country. Nobody's ever had that to campaign with, so I do. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. As you guys saw, the president coming out talking about immigration. Folks, the mainstream media is going to go crazy over this, talking about putting them in certain areas because they're getting overwhelmed and they need more place to put illegal immigrants while they're waiting for trial. Talking about how rocks are going to be, throwing of rocks is going to be classified as a firearm, a rifle, more than anything else. So just note that all over social media, all over the TV, all over apps and stuff, the mainstream media is just going to go absolutely crazy over this. And but the president already has something in mind. He looks very, very confident. I've noticed that right now, is that he looks extremely confident regarding the 2018 midterm elections, which is a very good thing. So make sure that you guys join us later on tonight for President Trump's rally in Missouri. We're going to be streaming it live for you folks. So make sure you guys tune in. It's going to be happening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys join us live here at Golden State Times. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and also click the notification bell. That way you get a heads up when we go live. Thank you so much for choosing us as your stream of choice. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, subscribe and click the notification bell. I hope to see you guys at the rally in Missouri later on today. I'll hope to see you guys here next time. My name is Jen. I'm from Golden State Times, and I'll see you soon. Peace. Again, the president has a rally later on today, so make sure you guys join us. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get a heads up when we go live. Also, follow us on Twitter at Gold State Times, so that way you get a notification on there, just in case you don't get it from YouTube, that we have just gone live for President Trump's rally later on today in Missouri. So make sure you guys join us. If you'd like to help out Golden State Times, there's a link in the description below for our PayPal. All of those PayPal contributions, Super Chat contributions, help out the channel, and it gets us to the next Trump rally. So thank you so much in advance.